He said he was just taking photos. But what his lens revealed were not just stories. They were secrets. And no one knew what he was really after. Not yet. Luca Moretti, 32 years old, born in Milan. A documentary photographer with a vintage analog camera hanging from his neck and a worn leather bag slung over his shoulder. He told everyone he had come to Africa to collect stories. In his first press interview, he said, "I want to show the world Africa's strength. The power of its women, its village life, its resilience. People need to see this." At first, no one questioned him. He smiled often, wore local clothes, sat with women during tea breaks on the farms, let children play with his camera, and captured it all in black and white. His mission seemed innocent enough, documenting women's empowerment, but his lens was focused on something else entirely. One afternoon, Luca launched a drone over a cornfield, but instead of recording the crops, the camera zoomed in on a military checkpoint several kilometers away. On another day, during a casual interview with a village woman, he asked, "Why is this road always blocked by soldiers? Is access to the mining zone restricted? Why does the electricity only cut out on certain nights?" The questions were odd, but what made them even more suspicious was the man asking them. Because quietly, Luca was mapping the country's defense zones one shutter click at a time. What no one knew was that each night, Luca's camera didn't just store photos, it backed them up and sent them to a hidden server. And he wasn't the only one watching those files. So who was this man really working for? And what exactly was his lens targeting? The whole country was about to find out. And it would change everything. Luca Moretti had shifted his focus to the eastern regions of the country. Officially, his purpose was clear: to be the voice of African women, but his camera kept returning to the same suspicious places: border patrol roads, abandoned military depots, paths leading to underground mining operations. On the surface, he was photographing portraits of women. But in every frame, hidden in the background, was a strategic detail. It was the intelligence unit that first raised the alarm. One data analyst noticed something odd. In nearly every photo or video Luca captured, the background revealed the same locations: oil pipelines, radar towers, and restricted military zones. That couldn't be a coincidence. They began tracking the data flow from Luca's devices. Every night at precisely 1:40 a.m., a large batch of files was uploaded, but not to a European server. The data was routed through a cloud host in Virginia, USA, owned by a firm called Global Strategic Media. A deeper probe revealed its links to Pentagon-funded infrastructure. These weren't just documentary files anymore. The suspicion of espionage was growing stronger by the day. But President Ibrahim Traoré still didn't act. "Keep watching," he said quietly. "He'll reveal himself soon enough." Meanwhile, Luca made a public announcement to the press: "I'm preparing a powerful photo exhibition, a tribute to the untold stories of Burkina Faso's women. I'm calling it Africa's Silent Heroes." He sent out international invitations. Journalists from Paris, Berlin, and London began confirming their attendance, but none of them knew the truth. This exhibit wasn't about celebrating women. It was about exposing a man, and the mask he thought no one could see. Luca Moretti was more careful now. His movements were calculated, his uploads discreet. But what he hadn't realized was this: he was no longer alone. Every drone flight, every camera angle, every file transfer, someone was watching. President Ibrahim Traoré's private intelligence unit had silently mirrored all of Luca's equipment. Without altering a thing, they had installed surveillance tools that created real-time backups of everything Luca sent. Each file he uploaded, photos, videos, coordinates, automatically copied itself onto a secure presidential server, and the files spoke louder than any words. Sure, there were a few harmless interviews about women's lives and farming, but hidden among those were files of a very different nature: maps, ammunition transport hubs, tunnel networks beneath seemingly empty land, and most concerning of all, new patrol routes near the border zone. Meanwhile, Luca was busy emailing invitations across the country to journalists, culture centers, and foreign embassies. The headline read, "The Real Face of Africa: What I Saw Through My Lens." The exhibit was then set to open at the National Gallery in Ouagadougou, right in the heart of the capital. Even the presidential office had received an invitation, but they wouldn't be attending for the art. They were going for the evidence. President Traoré gave his team a single instruction. The stage will be his, but the script will be ours. Lucas still believed he was in control. That night, he opened his laptop in his hotel room, launched his file transfer, and leaned back with satisfaction. But what he didn't know was that the server he was uploading to had been rerouted. What he didn't see were the silent observers watching from the other side of the screen. Because sometimes the deadliest traps aren't laid with noise, they're built in silence. The gallery shimmered with light. Red carpets had been rolled out, cameras carefully positioned, and members of the foreign press already seated. When Luca Moretti entered the venue, he was greeted with applause. The brave documentarian from Italy. A man capturing Africa's strength, that's what the crowd whispered. Luca wore a light linen shirt, an old analog camera around his neck, and a folder of notes in hand. He smiled modestly, nodded respectfully, and thanked everyone as he made his way to the stage. Then came the host's voice over the microphone. Please welcome Luca Moretti, the visionary behind the real face of Africa. The crowd clapped once again as Luca stepped up. He took the microphone and spoke with calm confidence. I came to this country not just to look, but to see. To show the world the strength of its women, their daily struggles, and their resilience. Heads nodded. Some took notes. Others lifted their phones to capture the moment. But then, the lights dimmed slightly. The massive screen behind Luca lit up and the video began to play. File title, Moretti drone footage, military zones that move. The first frame, a convoy of military trucks driving through restricted terrain. The second, high-resolution footage of an underground mining entrance. The third, drone shots skimming dangerously close to a national border outpost. A chill swept through the audience. The host took the microphone again, voice steady and sharp. Mr. Moretti, are these your recordings? And if so, why are there not just interviews with women, but archived files on military routes? Luca froze. These clips are being misunderstood. I was only... His sentence faded midair. Because now something else had appeared on the screen. IP logs, time-stamped uploads, server destination, Langley, Virginia, a known CIA-linked server. Every eye turned to Luca, but no one clapped anymore. The images were speaking for themselves, and the truth was now visible in a way no camera could ever frame. Luca Moretti's eyes darted anxiously across the room. That confident smile he had worn so proudly was now completely gone. The cameras kept rolling. Dozens of journalists, diplomats, students, and military officers stared at him. A heavy silence had settled over the hall, thick as fog. And then, the rear door of the hall slowly opened. President Ibrahim Traoré stepped inside. No fanfare, no announcement, just a plain uniform and a steady walk toward the stage. He took the microphone in his hand. There was no anger on his face, only the quiet gravity of a man who had seen too much. Luca Moretti, you listened to our women, you watched our children, but you weren't looking for their stories, you were searching for our weaknesses. Your footage isn't filled with hope, it's filled with maps. There are no people in your work, only targets. Luca stepped forward, trying to defend himself. Mr. President, I was only documenting, maybe too thoroughly. Traoré shook his head slowly. Then, in a voice both calm and thunderous, he replied, You didn't document. You leaked. You didn't tell our story. You exposed it. You didn't share light. You stole our security. Behind them, a new file appeared on the massive screen. Transfer log, Moretti server, va.pdf timestamps, IP addresses, video file names. Every data point led back to one place, Luca's own laptop. A journalist in the audience stood up and asked, Mr. President, this is clearly espionage. What action will you take? Traoré's answer was firm, unshaken. There is no longer space on this land for those who wear masks. Today, we didn't just catch a spy. We defended Africa's right to trust. Then he turned to face Luca. Luca Moretti, you have 12 hours to leave this country, and if you ever return to this continent, come only with truth. Security officers approached, but no one shouted. No one needed to, because the truth had already spoken. Luca was escorted off the stage, but what was banished that day wasn't just a man, it was a mindset, and the words that echoed from the hall would soon ring across an entire continent. We're not just posing for the camera anymore, we're watching back.